dear Deb. Deb and Moira
Hello.
with deliciously motivated mindset conversations. Good to see you, Deb. How are you?
Yay!
Well, I say see
Good,
you, but you guys
good.
can only hear her.
Yeah. Good to hear you.
Good to hear you. Good to be here.
Great to be here. Yeah. Jinx.
I'm actually really looking forward to our conversation today. We've done an episode already about trust, but we kind of felt like there was so much to talk about that we wanted to come back and chat more about trust part 2. So the idea of what we want to talk today about is how to reset and trust again. You know, I think we all have scenarios where our trust for another has been broken and life continues, right? So has that happened to you, Deb, where somebody's broken your trust?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting because as soon as you said it about, ourselves, so to someone else, I actually went, I've broken my own trust.
Yeah,
Now, just
absolutely.
to throw a complete spinner out there, I've broken my own rules and boundaries and trusting myself and made decisions as well. So, yes, absolutely, someone's broken my trust, but also I've done it to myself, which is now going to put a whole different spin on our podcast.
No, well, and we've talked about this before, about everything starts from within. So for somebody to break my trust, I've likely broken my own trust first.
Yeah.
In all honesty, or I maybe even broken my trust because I trusted somebody else. And I didn't trust my own self to speak my truth or to say what was my preference or what wasn't, or have a sense of what my boundary was. These are all, like, trust can be such a granular piece too. It's not just like trust can be used, but because it's also about truth. Trust and truth really go in together, don't they?
Yeah, and funnily enough, it's I just talked about trust recently on a Facebook Live, but I said there's the evidence, there's the court evidence, and then there's your own intuition evidence.
Yeah.
And I'm going to reference when people dabble outside the relationship, because it just seems to be a common one for people.
Okay.
There's sometimes you can't say something, your intuition's there, but you need that court evidence to really back you up in what you're saying, because your intuition, there's the mind intuition and the heart intuition, and the mind intuition is actually not a mind intuition. That's your mindset that can flip at any moment. But your heart intuition is the truth. And there's those things, and it's choosing what one you're going to need, or trusting what process or what one you're going to need to make the informed decisions.
Yeah.
And when you make that informed decision on certain things, it's actually believing that it's that trust again, believing that you have made the right decision for you right now. Things happen in a year down the track, you go, oh, if only I said that, if only I did that. But at that moment of when things happened, that was the perfect right decision for you right there and then. So trust that you said the right thing. You can't, oh, I should have said that, or I should have done that, or whatever. It's just believing, and that's that trust of, I did the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
Now I'm 1 year older, wiser. I would do things differently, yes, but at that moment that whatever happened, I trusted myself to do the right decision for me ethically, and other people around, whatever I had to do that was right for me.
Absolutely. I love how you've opened that up, because I just had a conversation this weekend with a new client, in actual fact, and there's a couple of really key pieces in here about trust that you brought up, and it's that thing of trusting that you always do what you can with what you know, with where you are, and we are always evolving and learning more things. So this client comes, and she's in a bit of a pickle. She doesn't like where her situation is, and she actually said to me she's not going to make any more decisions because she can't trust herself to make any good decisions.
Oh,
And
wow.
but here's the thing, and this is what I really getting her to look at, and I want to share this with our listeners, is if I, sitting here in my 50s, look back at something I did or did not do in my 30s and say, oh my gosh, I can't trust you because you're such an idiot. You did it wrong, or you did, you gave something up, or you know what I'm saying, you made a decision. And to your point, I would do it totally different because I've got these 20 years of wisdom or experience or contrast to make me do something different. But it's in that little space of time where we beat ourselves up. We have no right to do that.
Yeah.
This is what I was trying to say to her, is what right does this older, wiser, more experienced being have to look at that younger, less experienced, less wise portion of you? What right do you have to beat that one up and say you're wrong? So in that, to me, this is so important, an ingredient or an aspect to this whole piece of trust. Because how can I trust myself if I know I'm going to beat myself up?
Yeah.
Right? How can I
What's
trust?
the point of making a decision if you're going to beat yourself up over it? For goodness sake, make the decision, move on. That's it. I've done.
Yeah. So my point here is that you talked about using your intuition or your inner wisdom to make choices and choose who you're going to trust or what's the decision you're going to make. Well, what's the point in that aspect of you stepping in and saying, choose this or go with that person or do this project? There is no point in them speaking up. I don't know about you, but I don't really want to give somebody all of my wisdom if I know they're going to turn around and say, well, that was stupid. That was the wrong one to do.
Yeah, and I think you made the point of where you were 20, 30 years ago, because and I guess that's the thing, is as parents, or as when we educate somebody, not necessarily as parents, but when we educate somebody and we share a story to someone, we're telling them, not because we love the sound of our own voice, but we're telling them because we don't want them to go through that pain to get to that bottom, to that realization, or they don't need to do that journey. And sometimes our pain and our pain in our past has got us to who we are. But so if we can see a shortcut, we will say, hey, even in businesses, and you say to someone, can you do this for me? And you want them to do A, B, C, but actually you just want them to do the job and get to D. That's it. Right. If they do A, B, and they get to D and it's the same result, then so be it. But whatever way they do it, and it's having that trust that you can delegate that stuff to somebody and that they can do it. That's right. Having that trust that they're going to do it at a level that you have explained coherently, that they're going to understand and hear, because your level of hearing may different to be my level of hearing. You may say, I'll just get the job done. Whereas I want the job done with pink and white flowers or whatever. But you may not hear the pink and white. I don't even know why I'm saying pink and white flowers.
But purple. There's no purple in there.
Yeah, purple.
Purple flowers.
Purple flowers. Purple flowers. But we want people to, when we delegate things to people, or we have to have that level of trust, because otherwise you're just going to be a micromanager,
absolutely,
a helicopter parent in life. And it's not just going to be at work, it's going to be at home, it's going to be into your partner, it's going to be into, are the banks ripping me off? Am I getting the best investment? That person, people say salespeople, not salespeople, car salesmen are sleazy, salesman, saleswoman are sleazy, house people, house sales, real estate agents, they're going to rip you off. No, this is all just your stories you've listened to other people. This is all your past experiences that you've been, and I put my fingers, that you've been mistreated by. No, they're not. They're just people. They're just people who are doing the best they can to do the best offer. But if you go in with that, oh, this car salesman, I don't know why we say this car salesperson, ethically right or wrong, this car yard, they're going to rip me off. You know, if you
Right.
go in with that assumption, you're going to get ripped off.
You will get ripped off. Absolutely.
You will. And then you're going to have another story that you're going to run for another 20 years or 10 years. And if only I said that, and if only I knew that, I wouldn't have bought that car or any of
But
that
you
stuff.
know,
But that's our trust.
that is how trust. But the thing is, with that, is that it's so important to understand that life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you go around saying every real estate agent are sharks and they're going to rip me off, or every
Sharks, that's it, sharks, yeah.
every car salesperson is going to rip me off and they're all sleazy, and it's the truth because you're judging and seeing it through that lens, through that filter. But you know, there's an example of this a couple of years ago. It's about 10 years ago. I went through a phase, and I think it happened 3 times, where I formed a partnership in my business with another business owner, and that we were going to do health and wellness expos together, and that relationship went really bad, and didn't cause any kind of bad financial issues, but it ended really badly. And so it was, one of the things was we were not aligned energetically to work together. She had a lot of anger, and so I walk away from that, and it had caused me a lot of stress in that situation. But then about a month later after that, I went into partnership with somebody else, and it also went not so good. And it was really funny because in the aftermath of that one, I looked at our astrology charts together, and it was like, there is no way that I should have been working with this person's astrology, because it was not aligned. And I can't actually remember what the third one was, but I remember my husband being so distraught and so worried, and actually probably a bit angry at me, is saying, "What's wrong with you? How come you keep trusting people? Every time you go in and you look, you've trusted somebody here, and then you got ripped off, and then you trusted somebody here and you got burnt out, and then you trusted somebody here and your energies were." So his feedback to me was that I shouldn't trust anybody. But guess what?
It's that outside sources.
But guess what? The reason, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'll still go and get into partnership. Well, I'm in a partnership here with Deb doing our podcast.
And we hadn't even met each other for 24 hours.
I know.
Didn't even spend 24 hours in each other's company.
That's right. But we knew. I knew. You knew.
We knew.
But here's the reason I wanted to bring that up, is that in all of those situations, it was never their fault. It was mine.
Yeah.
The reason those relationships fell apart was because there was something that wasn't right for me. So I can't then say, because you know the thing that's landing for me, and I think this is where my husband was coming from, is that saying, I don't know if you have that in New Zealand, Deb, is once bitten, twice shy.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's so it's like, you know, you've been ripped off once, then that's it. Be really careful. And then if you get done twice, then I think it's the
third lesson, isn't it?
Yeah, the third one is something about being an idiot. Like
I can understand that. Yeah.
Because
we all need that internal talk, and we also need other people to tell us that because clearly we don't know it, because
we can't do stuff like that internally. But do you see what I'm saying? And because I think it's so important to always own what's going on. You know, if something works and there is a good energy, then that's great. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be forever either. But if something does fall apart, it doesn't mean it's the end. It just means thanks for the lesson.
It's an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Acknowledgement, and then you can decide to move on or not, or take another lesson.
But it's always to and you and I've had these conversations before, is there's always gifts. You may not see them right in that scenario, but when you reflect on it, or you see what the learning is, or the lesson is, or the gift, or you might find something out about yourself that you never knew.
And I think that alone is knowing there's a lesson in everything if you're open to it. That's a level of trust as well. But it takes a really brave person, and I say this often to people, it takes a brave person to speak up, step up and speak up. But it also takes a brave person to sit and not do anything, and just to sit and acknowledge that. So, I want people to do the best they can, and I'm like, go do this. But sometimes people can't do that.
Yeah.
And that takes a brave person just to sit and go, you know what, this doesn't feel right, but I'm just going to stay here because I just don't know what to do.
And that is one of the best examples of trust. Is I'm not going to get up off my chair right now because I don't know what to do. But in that, you also, and it kind of goes without saying in my mind, is that you will recognize when it is right, when the stars do align, or when it is the right thing to do. You will recognize it. To me, that is a really big component of this trust, and being able to reset and go and continue on your journey.
And trust is so interesting, because there's your internal trust, but then there's also the outside influences. And the outside influences are people close to us, but also reading a book or watching on TV, or just there's so much outside influences. And how do you I reference back dabbling outside the relationship when you're intimate, because this just seems to be coming up, as people say, someone, and I don't like using the word cheat, because at the end of the day, you just dabble outside the relationship. This is my wording. Okay. It's like chaos, crazy chaos. And so people say, you talk to a friend and they're like, well, I was cheated on when I was 15 from my boyfriend, and I'm now 50 and I'll never trust a man again. Right. And that's why I'm the size I am, and that's why I don't trust people, and that's why I haven't got a job. And that whole, oh my God, that flippin' story from 15 to 45. Take him, to 50. Take him out. You need to take your husband to the cleaner. No, you don't. No. And that's that trust, and listening to other people saying, you need to do this and you need to do this. And that can be a real builder and destroyer of your own soul and anyone else around you, because you've listened to that outside influence who's had their, and I put my fingers up in the air, quotation marks, not fingers up in the air, don't reference that. That's that trust that we're talking about, is that we have to listen to ourselves.
You really do.
But know that decision we're making right now is a perfect decision for us. Exactly. And if you want to take your husband to the cleaners or partner to the cleaners, then do that. But if you want to just talk about with them, just do that. But just know that other people will always have an opinion on what you do. And always have an opinion.
And the truth is other people's opinion is not really your business. And what I mean by that is, I really encourage my clients that, because and I can relate to what you're saying about the I've been cheated on, and or take the husband to the cleaners, or make them pay, because there's this, and it's like this group think around it. Well, what I challenge people to do is to pause and ask themselves, how do you feel about you with that thought process? So somebody being told by their support group or whoever's speaking to them, take your husband to the cleaners, when they really feel like, well, you know what, we could probably go to mediation and sort this all out. So how do you feel when somebody says, that's it, take them to court or do something? And if
you jump very quickly on that crazy train.
Yeah.
You can go, yes, I am. And next thing you're on that crazy train. And it takes a lot to get off that crazy train.
Oh, I know. But that's the point, is that's why you can actually press a reset by just pausing, being being like, you know how you talk about chaos? I
Yeah.
talk about you, and actually there's a song that says this. You can dance in a hurricane only if you're standing in the eye. So what I'm
Ooh.
saying by that is you need to stand in the middle of that chaos and let it all spin around you.
Yeah.
But stay grounded, solid on both feet, and just check in what's the right thing for me. Because you are the only authority of your life.
And you have to live with your actions.
Exactly. Nobody else's opinion. That's why I'm saying other people's opinions are actually none of our business. People are going to have opinions all day long about, you should have done it this way, and how about this, and when I was in that situation, this is how I did it. It's like, okay, good. Thanks.
That's great, and I value people's opinion. Well, I'm not going to say all people's opinions. I value some people's opinions, but at the end of the day, you just have to find what's right for you.
Exactly.
And believe that that's the right process at that time. And you talk about the word reset. 2 days later, you might go, you know what? I don't want to take my partner to the cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just want to sit and have a real deep and meaningful discussion to understand what actually went wrong, so I can learn this lesson for next time.
Yeah.
Like, what is it about? And then you may get in front of that partner and you may go, you know what? I actually do. I can't see that. So it's okay to change, move the goalposts. It's okay to change the patterns or whatever, but it's having that trust and speaking up and just going, this is what it feels like for me.
Yeah.
Trust is massive.
It's huge.
Massive, because we have our stories, we have other people's stories,
Mm-hmm.
and they change so quickly.
Mm-hmm. I know, but and they change, but this is the thing too, and I don't believe that in these current times that we check in enough to see what are the beliefs and the mindsets that are running your own opinion of you, of your life, of your relationship, of your career, of your aspirations or intentions. Are they yours? Are they yours, and do they feel right? Do they feel, because it's when we do that little check-in, sometimes we're saying, oh, it's always been done this way, and why has it always been done this way? And you turn out it's because my parents always did it this way, or my spouse always told me I had to do it this way, or whatever. But it's that just taking that little pause, and this is a big thing about reset, of maybe, just maybe, the thing that's right for you to do is the thing that your friend's opinion is. It could be. You don't know that for sure until you check inside, knowing that nobody else gets to make up your mind for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just pondering.
Pondering the trust.
Yeah, pondering the trust. So I'm in a relationship with someone who lives out of town, away from me, and it was interesting when we first got together. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you're going to have to trust your partner a lot because you don't live in the same city."
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh, do I?" And it was I was really like, "Oh, do I?" It had not even entered my mind in trusting my partner.
Yeah.
And it was just I was really perplexed. So I said to my partner, this is what came up in the conversation. And they laughed and was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And then we pondered over it for the next week. It became a great discussion, but it was really like it hadn't even entered my mind to trust my partner on certain things. And I realized that the person who said it to me, when I went back and I went, this is really odd. This is not, because if someone said to me in my business, from a business consultation, I would say, you must have trust in a long distance relationship. You've got to have this, I would have said that. But in my life, I didn't even, and I clearly wasn't even walking my talk. And we had this big open discussion about it and realized that it didn't even enter my equation because my intuition was already there. Trust was already there. It was a given.
Right.
And it didn't even need to be entertained in my mind.
Right.
So I hadn't even thought about it. It was just like breathing. I trust them. They trust me. I don't even need to look at it. But the person who said it had a real big issue with trust that had to be worked through. And only then when I started pondering, quite often on like, gosh, how did I not notice that? Because that's what I tell people to do if you're in a long distance relation, it's trust. It's even more trust than you would be if you were face to face. But to not even see it was like, oh wow, how did I miss that key component in a relationship? Because it didn't even entertain my mind. But I'd had people who had dabbled out of relationships. I'd dabbled out right from, gone both ways.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't even enter my mind in this connection I have with this person.
But don't you think, can I just interject something in this? Don't you think that that's because you implicitly trust yourself?
Yeah.
So you showing up into a relationship with your partner, you are being the best version of Deb that totally trusts her. Like you trust you trust the core essence of Deb, and therefore that then spills out into the relationship with your partner. Because I don't know that you would attract somebody when you're like operating completely in your sense of trust and sense of who you are. You wouldn't step out. So therefore, you're not going to attract somebody in as a relationship that was. Otherwise, it would just disintegrate really fast anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, at 18, if I was 18 or 19, when I did dabble outside the relationship, I was a different person.
Right.
But now I'm, I tick a lot of boxes. There's a few little whoopsies, but I don't. Yeah, I just feel comfortable with who I am and who they are, and but it was just an interesting one to see the walk the talk, but actually understanding and the trust. And it's a big thing. And if you have been burnt, or whatever you want to call it, and if you have, not just in intimate relationships, but you told your
Business
parents something and your parents went and did something, or in business, and I've had that person who's ripped me off money financially, and I've had that, all those stories that we hear, you just have to clear that emotionally. So I've cleared that so much so that I don't even recognize it in myself, because I was left with, wow, what a great question. I hadn't even thought about that.
Right.
Yet I teach that to people.
Yes. Isn't that interesting? So do you think that the fact that you teach it is based upon past conditioning for you? Because it's not part of your current way of being.
I teach it because people say it to me.
Right.
People go, oh, I don't, and then I'm oh, yes, you must have trust. If you don't have trust, you're going to have to resolve that, So I guess it's because people come to me and say those things.
But it's so interesting, because one thing that comes to mind as you're talking about that, you're saying about somebody who was betrayed when they're 15 and they're all still carrying the burden at age 50.
Oh my God. And then blaming everything around that one little thing, blaming their weight, their relationships now, their money situation, their jobs. It's like, oh, for God's sake, let go of the flipping story.
That kind of story breaks my heart, because it's like, wow, you really wasted a lot of your life there.
Yeah.
Not that we can never really waste it, but it's like, gosh,
you've missed so many amazing opportunities.
Done so many other things. But the thing that comes to mind is one of a big piece of work that I do for myself and with my clients is I really encourage people to journal, to write in journals. So, when I was 16, I used to write in my journal because I used to get really depressed and dark. And so journaling was actually a really good help to me. Yeah. Until it got discovered by my father and my sister, and they read it. Yes.
Because you trust what those words you put down. Oh no. Ooh, yeah. I can feel that. Yuckiness.
And so it's so funny to me, because obviously it's an awfully long time ago since I was 16.
Nah.
Well, just a few years anyway.
2 years ago.
But it's not even part of my. So if I tell that story to people, that's it. They would never ever write in a journal again. Never ever, because somebody's going to discover it. And I'd be like, well, they chose to do that. And yes, it was a horrible, horrible betrayal. I can't sugarcoat that one. It was mean. It was betrayal, but it did not. I'm not going to keep holding on to the story of I can't write in a journal because somebody's going to read it and throw it back in my face. It's I choose, and I trust myself that I'd keep my journals where people can't see them. But the other thing too is that I carry myself with the inner knowing and trust that even if my journal was discoverable by somebody, nobody would read it, because that's the level of trust that I have within myself.
Yeah, and that's a deep trust.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's what I have with my partner, and it's that deep trust that you don't even, it doesn't even enter your mind.
Exactly. But to your point, and because we've got some big similarities here, is it doesn't enter my mind simply because of the depth of the betrayal that I went through.
Yeah.
So this in your relationship, the relationship you have now, it doesn't enter your radar whatsoever because you've visited it, you've played with that, you've gone through that chapter of your own learning and receiving the guidance of what's your preference.
Yeah.
That to me is one of the best ways to build trust and inner resilience, if you like.
And it is that trust, and it is that trust and certainty, I guess, are two words that it goes hand in hand. Not confidence, but certainty. I trust and I'm certain that I've got the right thing. I'm certain I know what I'm talking about. I'm certain I know what actions I'm doing. I'm certain I know the people around me. I have certainty that this job's right for me. So that's another level of trust, and I trust that this job's right for me right now.
Right now, exactly.
3 months down the track, or a week down the track, maybe not,
change.
but right now.
And that's a really good point too. That sometimes people will misjudge or talk themselves out of what's right now because they're too much into anxiety about, but what happens in 3 months? What's in it? What happens in a year? What's going to be there? As opposed to just going, take a deep breath, and what's the answer right now? What's the best thing right now? Is this position or this decision the best? Yeah, good. Let's just be with this for right now.
And 2 hours later, you might reassess again, which personally, it must be a really heavy damn thing if 2 hours later you're reassessing, because, you just make the decision and move on, but it's that trust. But if it keeps reoccurring, like 2 hours later it's reoccurring, or a day later it's reoccurring, then do some more work around it. Don't just go, nah. Those reminders are your intuition to say you're not 100%. You're not
absolutely
fully there.
But I invite, when my clients talk to me about this, I invite them to ask themselves, who's talking? Who's talking internally?
Outside sources. Yeah.
Well, let's say, so let's just paint a scenario here. Let's say that in this moment, you decide, yes, this position or this job is the best thing for me right now. And then a couple hours later, you hear a voice in your head that says, this isn't good enough, or you should be better, or you should be earning more money, or what if this? But if you tapped into it, maybe it was your dad. Maybe it was a critical previous boss that says you'll never amount to anything past this level. It could be that you're being derailed by your own chattering committee of other people's opinions of you. But remember, I said they're not your business.
Yeah.
So that reassessment, and to me, if it's happening 2 hours later, that's an inner critic. That ain't you. You're the one that's listening to it.
And well, the beautiful thing is, it's actually saying it's unresolved. You're not 100% trusting that decision's right. So those little lessons are great that they come in, and the other thing is you dream about it too. You get into bed and you end up dreaming about something that's very similar, and then you're like, that's weird, I had that dream, wonder why that is. It's because you haven't frickin' resolved it.
That's right.
It's not 100%, it's 99.9%.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's the thing about dreams. Dreams is your subconscious mind resolving stuff that you haven't completely figured out or let go or got clarity on. It's this.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I dreamed, but guarantee I'll probably dream tonight. Now
I
that we've
hope it's
talked about
lovely, magical unicorns and lollipops.
glitter,
Glitter and hearts and purple
glittering
flowers.
hearts with purple and gold. Yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah, look, I love the word trust, but it can be a destroyer just as much as it can be a builder in your internal and your external with people.
It can, but what do you mean by it being a destroyer?
So when I say a destroyer, it can be, it can take your mind away from where you're going if you're doing things. So it's
yeah,
not yeah. So it's actually making you it's actually a builder, because it actually makes you have to get present and question it. But it's still a destroyer, because it could come at a time when you don't want to be dealing with it or something like that. That's what I'm meaning.
Oh, that's a great point. You know, I was teaching a workshop this past weekend, and I was teaching my students to deal with emotions as they came up. But sometimes, and this is to this point where you have to do an inner check-in about what do I need to trust? Do I need to give my trust to somebody, or do I trust that I'm going to make the right choice? If you're in an environment where it's pushing you down, or it's not the right time to have that emotion or have that conversation with yourself, all you do is you just tap your third eye area, or tap your chin, just something physical. Just a tapping thing is usually quite good, to, as you say to yourself, later tonight or tomorrow, or you just thinking to yourself, I'm going to create some time and some space for me to reflect on this later, and then you get back to the job at hand. So you're not going to let that inner critic or that conversation of, oh my God, what if I make the wrong choice, or what if I trust the wrong person, or I've been bitten once before and so I shouldn't be doing this. Any of those kind of things, they do need to for you to have some space and reflection on them. But all I'm saying is make a redate with yourself, a deal.
Yep.
I'm going to go sit and meditate on it, or I'm going to journal, or I'm going to call a friend, or I'm going to talk to Deb or Moira.
Listen to a podcast. And, well, I think that's a great thing, because, you know, you may be in the car driving with your children, and you may get a call, and you know that you're going to have to address that call with what was said in that call. But at the moment, you're taking your children to sport or whatever, and there's so much to be done in the next 2 hours. So I say that to myself. I don't actually tap when I do it, but I say to myself, I'm parking you. I'll deal with you before I go to bed tonight.
Yeah,
and I'll just and I have that trust that it's going to be done.
It's going to be done.
And that's it. You're parked. End of story. And until I deal with it.
Ruminate on it until you deal with it. That's perfect. You and I are on the same page. We just have slightly different ways of doing it. But the key piece is to make sure, and it is
acknowledging.
Trust. You acknowledge, and you know, I matter enough to circle back and deal with it when the time is right. Yeah. So I hope this second round of looking at trust, because, you know, that's the other thing. I really hope that our listeners got the idea of what we were really wanting to look at today, is that trust is, I believe it is an inside job, but it's once your trust is broken, there's a gift, there's a learning, there's a reset, but you can get up, and it doesn't mean that you can't ever trust again. Trust is always available to you. Just keep telling yourself the truth. That's the key piece, right? Keep telling yourself the truth.
And believing your truth.
Yeah.
Trust.
Trust. Absolutely. Yeah. I like this. This one feels really deep. I can feel this one in my heart energy.
To our listeners, please let us know if you have issues with trust. If this has helped you, if it hasn't helped you, if you'd like more on trust, reach out to either of us or both of us, or but it doesn't have to be. Look, just have trust and faith. I say faith. I don't know why I say faith. Just have trust that we will help you. But first, you have to put the wording out there to let us know. So please let us know. And if you have another technique that you use for trust, let us know as well, because we are all for self-education.
Mm-hmm. We'd
We
love
may
to
not
hear
trust
from
you, but
but we trust ourselves, and so it's okay.
absolutely,
We trust,
absolutely.
and then we trust you that you will do and give us the right feedback that you need to give.
Yeah.
No, it would be lovely to hear from our viewers on this one.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
on
that.
any of the episodes, in fact.
And for goodness sake, if you're that 50-year-old male or female and you got, broken trust from 15, oh, for goodness sake, you better reach out. I'm talking to you personally.
Time for definitely. And sometimes when we're stuck like that, we do need to reach out and ask for tools, for support, for somebody to hold space to break apart that paradigm, because you don't have to live there. It is possible.
Yeah, I love that holding space. Yep. Share that what you're going through, because that's the purpose of us doing these calls.
Absolutely.
And letting people know that there is ease in your world.
There's ease and there's love and support, and we hope that you feel us feeling you.
Yeah.
This has been good.
Wow. Yeah, it's been great. Thank you, Moira. Thank you, listeners. I look forward to seeing
I'd love to hear and have people connect with us on this one. Like I said, this one was deep and sacred, I feel. So thank you so much, dear Deb.
Thank you, dear Moira.
Our next one. And thanks, listeners. We'll talk to you again real soon.